Hello there, welcome to Good Morning Transfers. This is the place to be for breaking news and debate for everything going on in the transfer market. Join the conversation with the hashtag Transfer Talk.
Will Harry Kane's injury force Spurs into the transfer market? We'll focus on the injury crisis in North London. Plus, I'll be speaking to QPR manager Mark Warburton later this hour.
They might be bottom of the table, but are Norwich City about to get a player in this window? We'll be looking at Daniel Farke's shopping list in January.
West Ham are making moves in the transfer window. We have the latest on Gedson Fernandes, plus news of another potential signing and one manager David Moyes knows very well.
And clarity is so important. It seems Granit Xhaka has found that under the new manager, Mikel Arteta. We'll bring you the latest on the midfielder's future.
This is the only group chat you need this morning, so make sure you join in. A reminder, you can download the latest Transfer Talk podcast right now. It's available on iTunes, Spreaker and the Sky Sports website. Before we start, let's get the elephant in the room sorted.
Oh, don't.
Yes, Michael and JD did come in dressed the same this morning. You're not seeing double.
I'm going to be real. Like, you copied me, didn't you? Just say it.
I actually looked at Google Images David Beckham the other night. I'm not going to lie. So then JD walked in a bit as well. But there's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong.
Right, let's get on with the programme then. Here are the latest headlines. Mark.
We need to know who wore it best, hashtag Transfer Talk. On to the news. West Ham are interested in signing Marouane Fellaini as manager David Moyes looks to team up with the midfielder at a third different club. Staying with West Ham, they have agreed a deal in principle to sign Benfica midfielder Gedson Fernandes on an 18-month loan without an option to buy. Patrick Cutrone is in Florence to complete his move from Wolves to Fiorentina. The striker has agreed a loan until the end of the season with a view to a permanent deal. Ashley Young's decision to reject Manchester United's offer of a one-year contract is based on a lack of playing time. Southampton manager Ralph Hasenhüttl says the club are on the lookout for fullbacks in the January transfer window, and Norwich City are in talks with Hertha Berlin to sign attacking midfielder Andre Duda on loan for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much for that, Mark. Plenty to get through. Let's start with Arsenal this morning. And Mikel Arteta says he has convinced Granit Xhaka to change his mind about his future with the club. The midfielder is now poised to stay. So, James, what does Arteta have to say?
Well, to start with this scenario, Granit Xhaka looks set to leave the Emirates Stadium after his outbursts at fans who booed him when he left the field against Crystal Palace. In December, his agent revealed that the player had agreed terms with Hertha Berlin, so he looks set to leave. Arteta comes in and his press conference yesterday was very revealing. They said they had positive talks, and Arteta said, I wanted him to hear from me my opinion on him, and that I was ready to support him and that I was ready to push the club to be supportive to him too. I tried to convince him that way. He thought about it and he had a positive response afterwards, and I think he's changed his mind. So that's what Mikel Arteta says, that Granit Xhaka has now changed his mind.
So, does this make sense for Arsenal rather than spending, £30 million or more even on another central midfielder? Does it make sense to keep Granit Xhaka?
Dave, I was at the game and it was a really interesting situation. It felt like it was relieved cheers rather than boos to start with. And then when Granit Xhaka reacted, it sort of turned into boos. It felt a little bit toxic. But what I think Arteta's done, everyone starts again. Everyone gets that opportunity to impress. Has the incident had a long-lasting damage on the squad? I'd probably say no. And for Arteta, he's got league games coming up, FA Cup, Europa League to come. So it's an experienced player still in his squad, albeit not probably their best player, but someone do you really want to sell at the moment?
I think Arteta coming in kind of glossed over what had happened with Granit Xhaka, and it's almost forgotten about for a little while, which was perfect for the player and perfect for Arsenal as a whole, because personally I feel they're a little bit short in that position at the moment. Guendouzi's a little bit still young, still raw, still got a lot of time to learn. Torreira's coming into his own a bit. Granit Xhaka is needed in Arsenal, I believe.
And I just look at it as it's an amazing turnaround. I mean, that change of fortunes from what was seen as so much negativity at the beginning of last month to what seems like it's a positive spin now. And so many people question Mikel Arteta, was he the right man for the job because of a lack of managerial experience? Well, this is a good managerial decision, and half of being a manager is managing people and understanding those personalities. And he's obviously sat sat down with Granit Xhaka and convince a player whose head wasn't in London whatsoever to turn around and stay and be focused for the rest of the season. So it can only be positive things. I mean, I just think about what the players say in response. And I watched David Luiz after that Manchester United win, and he says, this is one of the best coaches that I've worked with, and that's a person that has worked with numerous coaches in numerous leagues. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a good direction that Arsenal are kind of going in at this moment in time.
I think you look at the shape of the team now as well, what Arteta's brought in. You look at the shape of the team under Emery, the players were kind of a bit all over the place, not sure they knew where they wanted to be, where they needed to be, with or without the ball. Now, they're a lot more structured, a lot more organised, and they've got clarity over their places.
Clarity is the word.
Absolutely. And Granit Xhaka now fits that mould for now, I would say. I'm not saying that there's longevity there, and I'm not saying Arsenal won't look in the summer to improve that area of the field. I personally think they should improve it, but for now, right now, with the games coming up, Granit Xhaka is going to be important for the rest of the season for Arsenal.
There's been a poll running on the Sky Sports News Twitter this morning. Do you think Mikel Arteta was right to persuade Granit Xhaka to stay at Arsenal? Yes has 60% of the vote, and no has 40% of the vote. There's a couple of hours left on that to vote if you want to have your say. Now, obviously, the caveat to that is that it may not just be Arsenal fans voting on that. It could be Tottenham fans or another set of fans. But you know, that is a big turnaround for a player who not so long ago didn't look like he had a future. You know, we were hearing here at Sky Sports News that he'd already said his goodbyes to his teammate and was out the door. Huge turnaround.
It's an amazing turnaround. I mean, it was an amazing incident, what happened. And it wasn't nice. No. I don't think it was nice whether you're an Arsenal fan or whether you're a football fan. You don't like to see it. I mean, Mike, you spoke about it before, that actually the incident itself, he was jeered a little bit, or there was some ironic boos, shall we say, because he wasn't running off the field when he should have been.
You're frustrated, you're at home, you want to get a win, you want the player to hurry up. I mean, we've seen it with the likes of Mesut Ozil as well, you know, you want people to hurry up as well. But when he went like that, it's only going to get a bit worse, isn't it?
It is, but then, you know, you say...
There's a lot of joy in your face when you say that.
There's a bit too much joy, isn't there?
No, I mean, I remember years ago at Tottenham, Hossam Ghali, he came on as a substitute after an earlier injury after about 7 minutes. Spurs were losing, and Martin Jol then took off Ghali as a tactical change. Yeah. And it's humiliation, isn't it? A sub getting subbed, but Ghali took his shirt off and he threw it at Martin Jol. You actually see me in the background going, he couldn't believe it. But the crowd booed that, and he never played for the club again.
Did they boo it because he threw it nearly?
He threw the shirt at, but throwing the shirt at Martin Jol, who everyone loved, I think this is slightly different. And off the back of that, his comments on Instagram. But as you say, we all start on zero again under Arteta, and it looks like they've moved forward.
Yeah. Other areas, do you feel like there's other areas that perhaps Arsenal would need to strengthen more than central midfield? We
talk about defensively. I think with Arsenal, we've been talking about defensively for a long, long while.
How many seasons now?
We were talking about in the summer. I think I was quite happy when David Luiz came in the summer. I think probably for the first half of the season, maybe proved wrong. But the last couple of games, he showed vast improvements. He's actually talking a lot more on the field. And you see the improvements that Arteta's making in these players will make Arsenal rethink about dropping into the transfer market, actually the willingness and need for players.
The problem Emery, I think, had as well, and what Arteta would probably have as well, is that with Arsenal back in the day, full of leaders, Adams, Bold, Winterburn, Linegan, Keown, show my age here, but real leaders. And then after that, the Wenger era, Petit, Vieira, people like that. He's got Aubameyang now as the club captain. Now, he's had a brilliant few years, Aubameyang. But I didn't see him as a captain. But he's still got Xhaka in there now. And you don't usually take the captaincy off a player, but it looks like it's all right. It's been OK.
Yeah, it was interesting because in the summer, we all sat round this table and said Arsenal had a terrific transfer window. They needed a centre-back and they got a centre-back. They needed a winger and they got a winger.
Needed a left-back and they got a left-back.
And they got a left-back. So, you know, it shows how things can change almost. The manager ended up leaving and now Mikel Arteta is in and he's persuaded Granit Xhaka to change his mind and stay at the club. If you want to have your say, you can. Use the hashtag #TransferTalk. We've had a few tweets coming in. So one in particular on Granit Xhaka. Matthew says Xhaka is a massive asset for Arsenal. If he left, I don't know who Arsenal would replace him with. He says that Xhaka is a bigger asset than Kane is to Tottenham, in my opinion.
I'm just sorry.
Interesting point.
Say that again.
Everyone can have their say. Join in. There's a few as well. Storms
Not one to go
Pixel says
one-on-one.
Xhaka is doing well under Arteta and he should stay.
He is.
Storms Pixel has used the hashtag transfer talk, so thank you very much for that. Lots of people chatting about the wardrobe here as well. We have had Michael says, who does the wardrobe on Sky Sports? Absolutely woeful. Dean says.
That's really out of order on you two.
I think
Oh, this is Enfield's finest right here.
I think he's aiming that at me. Dean says, you look like Del Boy. If you don't know who Del Boy is, ask your mum
Bonnet
and
de
dad.
douche.
He's
So,
spot on as well.
Well, I feel like a bit of a plonker now, but yeah. So,
well, let's get you two together, shall we?
yeah, let's get us together. 'cause we've
So,
got some-
not just the Premier League, we're
We've got
focusing
some
on JD
EFL
and
news to give you at the moment. So if we go over here to the Sky Pad, we've got plenty of EFL. So the transfer window is not only open in the Premier League, but it's also open in the EFL and the Scottish Premiership as well. We're going to begin the AFL wrap with Cardiff. They've confirmed that Gary Medina has left the club by mutual consent.
Also, Sunderland are interested in Sheffield United's Billy Sharp, as well as Burton Albion's Liam Boyce and Carl Lafferty. They seem really to want to strengthen that front line this month.
Yeah, Millwall have announced that Tom Elliott has been released from his contract at the Den.
And Chelsea's Tarek Awake is attracting a lot of interest from Championship clubs, especially Derby County, who's seen keen on bringing the winger in on loan move.
Yeah, Accrington Stanley have extended a loan deal with midfielder Sadou Diallo from Wolverhampton until the end of the season.
And finally, my guy, Salford City, they've signed Tom Elliott after his release from Millwall. The striker signs on a 2.5-year deal. Did you do this on purpose?
I did.
No,
I did.
seriously,
It was
on
actual
purpose?
accident.
Right, that's enough of that now. That's enough of that. Plenty to come this morning. West Ham fans, we want to hear from you. Do you want to see Marouane Fellaini join the club? We will discuss that potential move next. Don't go away. But we have some transfer news just in. The jacket is going.
Mate, you didn't need to do that, but I'm not going to lie, I'm quite happy you did.
It's a shame because Meron has got in touch on Twitter and said that you wore it better.
That's very nice.
So,
The vote, yeah, no. Well,
Is that one of your friends?
It's gone. Right, we've got loads to talk about on this show today, so let's get serious. Today's transfer spotlight is Ashley Young's decision to reject Manchester United's offer of a one-year contract, and is based on a lack of playing time, as Young views the fullback areas at United as well stocked. Now, Young is 34, and he feels at this stage of his career where he wants regular football, and the prospect of Inter Milan is said to excite him, having spent his entire club career in England. That's also, remember, he's also a friend of former teammate Chris Smalling, who's thriving in Rome, and Smalling making it very public on his Instagram that he's loving life in Italy, also saying he's had the best Christmas he can remember. Now, Young is in the final 6 months of his United contract and already has the option of signing a pre-contract agreement with a foreign club. It's another blow for United, who lack experience in their squad, and with an injury to Harry Maguire, it's the last thing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer needs, with an FA Cup replay, League Cup semi, Europa League and Premier League campaign all to come in the next month. Now, United fans, surely Young's departure means you'll be busy in January. Surely! Now, tweet us at Sky Sports News and tell us what you need.
Right, before we talk West Ham, let's just mop up what we were talking about before the break. Loads of you getting in touch about Granit Xhaka. Ryan says Xhaka should have never played for Arsenal again after the incident against Palace. I'm an Arsenal fan, and it was a total disrespect to the club and the fans. He used the hashtag transfer talk to get in touch. Niall has got in touch saying, I think Arsenal shouldn't panic buy in this window. Wait until the summer, get the right players in. Mark Guna says Xhaka still has plenty of mistakes in him during a game. He has been better the last few weeks, but Torreira has been our standout player. And just one final one from Gary. If Arteta can get Xhaka playing and teaching him how to tackle, he may as well stay. Only cash in if a replacement is signed. So there we go. That's what Gary has said. Keep your thoughts coming in. Hashtag transfer talk. Let's move on and talk about West Ham. They are making moves in this transfer market. The latest on Jedson Fernandez is coming up, but David Moyes is also looking to bring in a player he knows very, very well. Mark, who is it and what are the details?
Everyone loves a hat-trick in football, but is this the type of hat-trick that West Ham fans will like? A reunion with David Moyes and Marouane Fellaini. Let's just bring you right up to date. West Ham want to sign Marouane Fellaini from Jiangdong Luneng, so that's the part that we know. David Moyes has already signed him twice before. We know that, of course, from Everton and Manchester United. He's got 2 years left on his current contract in China, so there is some negotiation to be done here. The China FA is introducing a salary cap, which would mean Fellaini having to take a 75% pay cut if he stays beyond the end of his current deal.
Do you think West Ham need Marouane Fellaini? There would be a question mark over wages, even though he's going to have to take a significant pay cut to come back to the Premier League.
I mean, it's a huge cut, but he's on huge wages there, isn't he? So, I think, do West Ham need him? I think West Ham would take him. He's a player full of Premier League experience. He offers a different option for them as well. We've known they're very good in the air, West Ham. Sebastian Haller's won more aerial duels than any other player in the Premier League right now. Add Marouane Fellaini into that mix, get some players out wide that can cross the ball maybe a little bit more efficiently, a little bit better. I think West Ham could be on something. That's a bit. David Moyes is kind of familiar to that style of play as well.
And we heard from David Moyes yesterday, didn't we? And he said that he was looking for young players during this transfer window. He wanted a young team, but then he also said at the same time, in the same sentence, that actually, he would also look at some Premier League experience, and that is what Marouane Fellaini would bring. Absolutely.
I mean, he's played under David Moyes at Everton and United. I mean, if you look at his stats, he's an important player for Moyes, but also, if you remember, Jose Mourinho liked him at Manchester United. He was a key player for Mourinho. If you look at it here, 153 games started 140, so he's usually in the team. Goals 25, assists 14. Let's remember, he's been pushed back quite a bit as he's got a bit older. Look at Moyes in his ear there. You do what I tell you. He loved Marouane Fellaini here. But as a tackle success, aerial success 60, he's a tall guy. He's a Premier League player. A lot of players West Ham sign are from abroad, and they do come with risk. Is Fellaini a risk-free signing? But he's someone who he knows, and I think Moyes has that sort of time at the moment. If I want someone, I'll try and get him, because Moyes wants to mould his West Ham team.
I'm not really seeing it. I'm not going to lie to you, both of you gentlemen. I'm not really seeing it. So it just explains to me where Mario Fellaini fits in to that squad, because that West Ham squad, even though they're not performing in the league, in terms of the quality that they actually have within that squad, especially in the midfield, where do you see Fellaini fitting, both of you?
Oh, to me, it's more of a second option. It's he was used by Jose Mourinho off the bench quite a lot, wasn't he?
But you just harked onto all of the starts that he's had under both of those managers. I mean, he's got to basically change his role and understand that he's going to have basically say be a rotation player. Is what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying. He was, like I said, Jose was using him that way. I think West Ham need those options off the bench. I think they need a bit of variety, and someone like that coming off the bench will really help them. Do I think he's going to start? Do I think he fits into their mould? Probably not right now, but we always need. I think football teams always need a second option.
I think your actual point counteracts your point, because you're talking about Sebastian Haller, who's their pinpoint in terms of they get the ball up to him. You spoke about all of those aerial duels that he's winning. They need players that's going to springboard off that. That's what Lanzini does. That's what Fornal does. That's what Snodgrass does. They all want to get in behind Antonio. That you can't have Haller, who's going to be able to be such a combative player, who's going to bully a lot of defenders in this league, and then have Fellaini, who's going to be able to do what in terms of reaction to that.
Well, to be honest, my point was that he's adding to that physical presence of the team. That's my point. He just offers us something a little bit extra for any team. That's all. Do I think he's the right mould to start for West Ham? No. Do I think he's a good option?
Ultimately, it's down to what David Moyes thinks, though, isn't it? I mean, he's just found out again that Jack Wilshere's out for a considerable period of time. He's looking at maybe who Manuel Pellegrini's brought in. They're not totally used to the Premier League yet, and we talk about irrelevant opposites, but Fornals, we know he was brilliant for the under-21s, but he hasn't totally settled in yet. Lanzini has a few injury problems. Where does David Moyes Fellaini fit into David Moyes? And if one of us gets that opportunity to speak to Moyes over the next few weeks, that's probably one of the first questions we'd ask.
The thing is, I spoke to him after the Bournemouth performance. I went to the game and I spoke to him, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was talking about the quality of that squad. So.
OK, he's a player, obviously, that divides opinion, as we've heard already there. West Ham fans getting in touch as well. Mitchell May, Fellaini is not good enough, not worth the time and the money. Look at Sander Berge. Well, actually, we have confirmed here at Sky Sports News that West Ham are looking at Sander Berge as well. Fellaini, this is from Dave. He says, Fellaini's too old, rather stick to bringing in younger players. Moyes building for the future, but he knows what he wants, so if he can do a job, then so be it. And Mr. Boss on Twitter has said he's a good player to bring in, but we need another striker to play up front with Allaire and maybe younger players too. So keep those thoughts coming in. Hashtag Transfer Talk. We have news just reaching us here on Good Morning Transfers, and it is with regards to Tottenham Hotspur. We heard yesterday about the injury to Harry Kane. We know he is going to be out until April with this hamstring injury. He's going to undergo surgery. And does that mean that Tottenham will be going into the market? Well, we can tell you this morning that Tottenham and AC Milan have held talks over the signing of Christophe Piontek moving to London this month. We're told that talks are not at an advanced stage at the moment. No formal offer has yet been made for the Polish striker. It's unclear at this point if any move would be temporary or permanent. So that is the latest on Tottenham there. We're also hearing that Inter Milan are continuing their attempts to sign Christian Eriksen in the coming weeks, but no agreement has been reached there. Christophe Piontek, and don't at me for the pronunciation. Don't at me for the pronunciation.
Well.
We've been told that it's Christophe Piontek, so everybody take note of that. Spurs after a striker, Michael, needed.
Absolutely needed. I tweeted the other day about Moussa Sissoko's injury, that this is the time Spurs are going to have to do some business. And then when I heard about Harry Kane's injury, which it could, let's be honest, it could be for the season, they do need strikers. And Jose Mourinho said after the Middlesbrough game on Sunday, I love my attacking players, but they're not scoring goals. There wasn't that real attacking, out-and-out threat. Tottenham don't have a striker on their books over the age of 18. I mean, Vincent Janssen was sold. Fernando Llorente went to Napoli. Llorente will always be a hero to Spurs fans after his Champions League exploits. It's all well and good players going. We saw this with Kieran Trippier, but they have to be replaced. And when there's nothing coming off the bench, that's when it's the alarming thing. Now, people tell me, who's getting over Harry Kane? There's 60-odd games a season, and this is the issue. Spurs have have them now. They've got an FA Cup replay. The Champions League is about to start in a minute, and they're trying to get in the top 4. So it's very welcoming to have this news this morning that Spurs are in for a striker. I think they might be in for more than one as well this January. I think they're going to go for it, and they really need to.
OK, we'll just give Michael a minute just to get his breath back there for a moment. We'll head back to West Ham. And what they're doing in this transfer window. So earlier this week, we talked about Chelsea being interested in a mystery centre-half that would be worth £50 million. Last night on the transfer show, that name was revealed.
That player is Issa Diop. It's not a case of West Ham wanting to sell him, but I think if a big bid was made for him, every player has his price. And that price for Issa Diop, I think, would be about £50 million, more than £50 million. I think there is the potential for West Ham to sell him.
Issa Diop then is the man. He's been linked with Manchester United, Paris Saint-Germain in the last couple of transfer windows as well. If he became available, you would think that, you know, maybe Chelsea wouldn't be the only ones that would be after him.
This is a player that's 23 years old. I've seen him play this season. He's got all the physical attributes you would want. He's big, he's strong, he's got a bit of pace about him, but he still needs a little bit of work. Now, is it because he hasn't had the centre-back partnership that's consistent throughout the season? He's been partnered with Ogbonna, he's been partnered with Balbrena, and that's changed quite a lot. Now, maybe that consistency he needs, but he's got the potential, and I think Chelsea could be a wise move for him.
Well, we shall see if that one develops. Just the latest on Gedson Fernandes, because we did promise to bring you up to speed with that. West Ham have agreed a deal in principle to sign the Benfica midfielder. It will be an 18-month loan without an option to buy. The Premier League club have been in continued negotiations with Benfica over the signing of Fernandes, with West Ham initially offering an 18-month loan with an obligation to buy for £33 million. But that is no longer happening. It's just going to be a straight loan for Gedson
Dave,
Fernandes.
if he's watching, happy belated birthday. It was his birthday yesterday.
Yes, happy birthday from everybody here at Sky Sports News. Birthday shout-outs, why not? Keep using the hashtag transfer talk. Have your say. We're going to be live to Newcastle to hear from Steve Bruce. Plus, we'll be joined shortly by the QPR manager, Mark Warburton, joining us live. Hello there, this is Good Morning Transfers. Thank you very much for your company this morning. We talked about West Ham just before the break there, and Joshua Dale has got in touch. He's a West Ham fan. West Ham don't need another old and washed-up player. If we go for a midfielder, I would love to get Gedson Fernandes. So that is what he had to say, and obviously it looks now like West Ham are getting Gedson Fernandes. Wayne has also got in touch saying West Ham need a striker, big time. That's what he's had to say. And we also spoke about Spurs there. The news reaching us this morning that Tottenham have held talks with AC Milan over the signing of Christoph Piontek. Unclear yet as to whether it's on a temporary deal or a permanent transfer, whether it will be sorted out this month or potentially one for the summer. But we know those talks now have been held. And we've had a tweet in from Anthony Costa. Who remembers Anthony Costa from Blue? He's been in Panto as well, I think.
All rise.
All right. Well, yeah.
These guys.
He has tweeted in to say, Anthony Costa to Michael Bridge, you are so right regarding our clubs. There you go. You've got a fan. Well,
Good guy, Ant.
if Anthony Costa wants to come on the show, this is an open invite. You can sit round the table and argue with Michael Bridge.
One of the biggest Spurs fans out there, Anthony Costa.
Right, there you go. So there's your open invitation.
That's why he's feeling blue. Hey, sorry.
Wow.
Oh, dear.
Wow.
The Transfer Talk podcast is available for you to download right now. There'll be no jokes on there. It's available on iTunes, Spreaker and the Sky Sports website. Time for the state of play, Mark.
West Ham are interested in signing Marouane Fellaini, as you were just hearing there. David Moyes wants to team up with him and obviously make it a third time lucky. Staying with West Ham, they've agreed a deal in principle to sign Benfica midfielder Gedson Fernandes on an 18-month loan without, interestingly, an option to buy. Southampton manager Ralph Hasenhüttl says the club are on the lookout for fullbacks in the January transfer window. And Ashley Young's decision to reject Manchester United's offer of a one-year contract is based on a lack of playing time, as Young views the fullback areas at United as well stocked.
OK, let's get to Bournemouth now. We're not expecting too much activity this month, despite the terrible injury issues that Eddie Howe has had to deal with. Here are the thoughts of the manager who's been speaking this morning.
Have there been any approaches, any bids?
No bids for any of our players.
Nothing at all, no interest? And any indication from any of your players that they're perhaps looking elsewhere at all?
I'd certainly hope not with the position that we're in. You know, it's not a time for that. It's a time for everyone to unite together, to be totally focused on achieving our goals and our aims. It's a really difficult window. I've said it all along, to recruit, but also to sell any of your top players. The ones that make the difference, the ones that are part of your plans, absolute no as far as I'm concerned, if we're to achieve our objectives.
Difficult time, isn't it, for Eddie Howe at the moment? Probably a lot of Bournemouth fans would say this might be the most pressure he's been under since he became Bournemouth manager.
Yeah, quite simply, the results just haven't gone to plan over the course of the last 3 months or so. It's been a really challenging time. We'll talk about the injuries in a bit, but one thing that the Bournemouth board have always done when it comes to Eddie Howe is they've backed him in the transfer window. Last January, the club spent £30 million on recruiting new players. Over the course of the summer, they spent £45 million on 5 new faces. So that's something that the fans can never really label at the board. The size of the football club, they have always been active in the transfer window, and they've always done the very best that they can to support Eddie Howe. The big question really, I think, for this window is the lack of incomings is obviously going to be one thing, but making sure they do not lose those key players, because people like Nathan Aké and Ryan Fraser, who have been instrumental in Bournemouth's rise from the lower leagues into the Premier League and staying there for 5 seasons as it is now, it's going to be key to keep hold of those players. And just like Eddie said in the press conference this morning there with Roger Clark, let's keep everyone together. Let's hope no one's looking at the exit. Let's just try and get the job done, stay in the Premier League, because that right now is key.
What do we think as we speak a lot about Spurs in terms of the cycle under Mauricio Pochettino, and the fact that, you know, what some critics have said about Spurs is that they haven't renewed the squad at the right time. What stage are Bournemouth in at the moment in terms of the cycle of players? You mentioned the players that have got them into the Premier League. Where are they at in terms of that at the moment?
So largely the players that got them from League One to the Premier League have either left the club or are in the final stages of their careers with the club. Obviously, we've got injuries to Charlie Daniels at the moment. Harry Arter's out on loan at Fulham. Simon Francis had a serious ACL, so he was out for a long period of time. He's coming towards the latter stages of his career. So those players are all just slowly sort of disappearing from the football club. Andrew Sermon was back last week in the FA Cup and he was absolutely superb, but he's struggled with injuries this season. And obviously some of the newer players that they've brought into the club have been struck with this injury crisis at Bournemouth. The likes of Lloyd Kelly, injured in pre-season. Jack Stacey, currently injured as well. He was another player that they brought to the club over the course of the summer. Arnaud Danjuma, another player, an exciting player, someone that can generate goals, someone that can score goals. Unfortunately, injured at the moment. So that gives you a little idea as to the story of where they're at. Eddie's trying to rejuvenate the squad and bring in some more players to keep that Bournemouth story going. But it becomes a real challenge when it comes to injuries.
All right then, let's head to Newcastle now. We know that Steve Bruce is desperate for a new striker. We can go live to speak to Keith Downey, who is part of the transfer team this month. He joins us live right now. Keith, any updates on potential incomings?
Yeah, good morning, Dave. I've just spoken to Steve Bruce in the last half an hour here at the Newcastle United training ground, and as I've been saying all week, his priority is a striker to try and help out Joe Linton, obviously struggling this season for confidence. But the name that's been doing the rounds since we broke the story on Tuesday on Sky Sports News is Ademola Lookman. We told you that Newcastle had made contact with his club RB Leipzig with a potential loan move until the end of the season, making that permanent in the summer. And I asked Steve Bruce about the potential move for Lookman in the last half an hour. This is what he had to say. Can I put one name to you just because he's been doing the rounds the last couple of days? Lookman, Ademola Lookman at Leipzig. Is there an interest there?
Well, look, I think I've been linked with 38 players that Lee has run past me, our media man, and he's another one of them. He's a good player, I like him, who wouldn't do, but it's a little bit far off at the moment.
So Steve Bruce there, not in the mood for talking names this morning, but I did manage to throw that one to him. It's our understanding that one is the most advanced of any player Newcastle are going for right now. What he did say is that he's got plenty of plates spinning. He says he's counted them and he's been linked with 38 names so far already this window. And he alluded to all the other teams. He said, you know, you look right across the board in the Premier League, there aren't too many signings taking place at this point. He does expect Newcastle to be busy or busier come the end of the window. So Lookman appears to be closest, although he did say there that he is still a little bit away from a deal being done. It's our understanding that Lookman would be keen on a move from the Bundesliga, despite the fact he's playing for Leipzig, who are top of the Bundesliga, back here to England, and he is looking at Newcastle as a potential move. It would be somewhere he would like to move. Of course, he only joined Leipzig from Everton in the summer for £22 million. But Newcastle keen on bringing in a striker. That is our priority, but as Steve Bruce said there, Lookman is the closest at this stage.
OK, Keith, thank you very much for the moment. 38 names Newcastle have been linked with. That is some going already. We're going to hear from 13 Premier League managers here today on Sky Sports News. It's going to be busy, so stay with us if you can. Let's talk EFL now, Michael.
Yes, thanks very much, Dave. Now, it's been a great few games for QPR. 11 goals in 2 games. You've certainly got your money's worth if you're a Queen's Park Rangers fan. Now, to talk about their form and transfers, of course, I'm delighted to say I'm joined by the manager, Mark Warburton. Mark, firstly, it looks like it's been a very exciting last few games at Loftus Road.
Now, morning, Michael. It has been. We've been very clinical. 11 goals in 2 games, so we've been creating chances, as we have done in truth in the previous games, but that more clinical edge has really paid off for us.
Mark, always enjoyed following your transfers, starting with Rangers. You know, great building up a squad. They're looking at Tav and everyone like that. And now at Queen's Park Rangers, can we expect any this month?
If the right quality becomes available, then maybe we'll move. But I think many of the clubs are fighting the FF and have to keep their house in order. So unless that quality becomes available, keep your gunpowder dry for the summer. But it's always about adding quality as and when it becomes available.
Mark, you and I both know Spurs well. You've got Luke Amos on loan. There's a bit of an injury crisis there. Are you confident, though, you've got Luke for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I hope so. I think Spurs, I'm sure, are happy that their players developing nicely. He came through a tough injury crisis at the ACL. He had a small hamstring issue earlier in the season, but again, all credit to him. He worked hard, and the medical team did great work with him, and he's been performing so well now for the last 5 or 6 games. You're seeing a really talented young player. He's performing well. He's enjoying himself, I think, in the division, and long may that continue.
I've covered a few QPR games this season, Mark, and I must say I've been impressed with some of the young attacking talent you've got. How much has that pleased you?
Very much so. I mean, you know yourself, young players need nurturing. They have good days, not so good days. They need to be dipped in, dipped out. And it's all about looking after them, I hope, in the right way. But the likes of Vebs and Brighty, Ilias, Don Ball behind, Luke, you've already mentioned, Ryan Manning. A lot of the young boys have done exceptionally well. They've been well mentored as well. Don't forget the role of the senior players in their process. So the likes of Jeff Cameron, Grant Hall, Lee Wallace, Naki Wells, Jordan, all these guys, Tony Leisner, have a very important role to play on and off the pitch. So right now, the balance has been good. The last 2 games have been very productive for us, but we've had a sticky patch before it. What we have to do is get that consistency, which is so important at this level.
Yeah, Eze in particular looks a real talent. Have you seen more scouts than ever visit Loftus Road on the back of his performances?
Suffice to say, there's 1 or 2 always present, but no, he's a very talented player. He's receiving a lot of attention. He's responding well to that. Sometimes that can impact a player negatively. He's responded really well to it. But as I say, the likes of Ilias Chair, Bright Samuel, Ryan, Dominic Ball, all these guys are performing really well at the level. They're young. They'll have, as I say, good days, not so good days. They have to keep on learning. But it's so far so good for them. Done very well indeed.
He's done very well under your management. Has there been interest?
I'm sure there will be. I mean, and I'm saying this in the right... Please take this the right way. I want every Premier League player to be interested in my players, all of them, because that means they're doing great for QPR and performing well for the club. So, you know, it'll always be that they leave on your terms. As long as that happens, and Michael, then we're in a good place. But right now, the young players are responding well. The senior ones are mentoring and performing well themselves. We have a strong bench, and the squad's in OK shape. But this league demands like no other. So we have to be prepared for each and every game. And tomorrow at Brentford, another tough test for us.
A special game for you as well. Now, finally, it's the most important question for me, really. It's a no shirt and tie policy on Good Morning Transfers. Are you a fan, though, of the roll neck?
Depends who's wearing it, Michael. I'm hearing some very bad stories about your good self, so I won't comment on those. But I'm a fan of the shirt and tie, so maybe choose that option. Okay.
Brilliant, Mark. I'll see you soon. Thanks very much.
Pleasure. Nice speaking to you.
Cheers.
Mark Warburton, live there on Sky Sports News here on Good Morning Transfers. Fantastic. Dave West got in touch with us and asked us to ask Mark about Eberechi Eze. So hopefully we got you the right answer you were after there, Dave, as well. And I can tell you, having seen him, he is a fantastic young player. Yep. Great prospect at Queen's Park Rangers. Don't forget you can download the latest episode of the Transfer Talk podcast, available for you right now, iTunes and Spreaker. Next up, injury woes for Jose Mourinho. We'll tell you more about their interest in Christoph Piątek.
Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Throughout the window, we're looking at Premier League managers' wish lists. Today, it's the turn of this man, Norwich boss Daniel Farke. The club made the bold decision to keep their spending in check after promotion from the Championship, and whilst impressing by beating Manchester City and Everton, they're still bottom of the Premier League with just 14 points, 7 adrift of safety. Are they reaching for the panic button? Are they going to unleash the manager with £100 million to spend in the window, sign everyone in sight, pack the squad with Premier League experience? No, they're going to remain calm and go about their business, as is the philosophy of Sporting Director Stuart Webber. Let's take a look at what they might want in January. A number 10, a winger and a centre-back. Top of Norwich's shopping list are players that create chances for Teemu Pukki. First being a number 10, the second, a quick winger to provide the chances for their prolific striker. Whilst they haven't signed anyone yet, we understand Norwich are in talks with Hertha Berlin to sign attacking midfielder Andre Duda on loan for the rest of the season. Discussions are with a view to a deal that would not include a permanent option to sign the 25-year-old Slovakia international. The club are also looking to shore up their defensive problems with a centre-half because of Ben Godfrey's injury, and if they can get a top-quality player in here, he is likely to be involved from the very beginning. Norwich fans, remember, get in touch and tell us what you would like to see happen in January, and remember the hashtag #TransferTalk.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Mark. I thought it was quite interesting. We talked in the summer about how the promoted sides did things slightly differently in the transfer window over the summer. Sheffield United concentrating very much on the British market with their signings. Aston Villa splurging the cash to replace the 12 players that they released, replacing those, spending over £100 million. And then Norwich City, who concentrated on the squad that had got them up. 11 contract renewals over the summer for Norwich City in their transfer strategy, which you touched on there with Stuart Webber. But number 10 seems to be the priority. They're getting closer to that now.
Yeah, I believe Mark mentioned Andre Duda from Hertha Berlin. Now, I believe, from what I hear, he's having a medical this morning at the club. He fits that number 10 profile, 25 years old, Slovakian international. He's won trophies in Poland and Slovakia as well. He's got international experience, played 32 times in the Bundesliga last season, scoring 11, setting up 6 goals as well. So stats pretty good, contributes a lot, but he's fallen out of favour this year with their boss, Jurgen Klinsmann, and that's why he's come available for them. I think it'd be quite a shrewd signing for Norwich.
OK, let's just recap the Tottenham news, because that has been the focal point, really, of the programme here on Good Morning Transfers. This story came into us within the last 20 minutes to half an hour. Tottenham holding talks with Krzysztof Piątek and AC Milan over the signing. It's unclear at the moment as to whether this is going to be sorted out during this window, whether it's something for the summer, whether it's going to be a temporary deal or a permanent deal. But we know that talks have now taken place with AC Milan over a deal for Krzysztof Piątek. We're also hearing Inter Milan are continuing their pursuit of Christian Eriksen during this transfer window. So let's just finish off by talking about Tottenham. It's not just Harry Kane, though, is it? Because we've seen Moussa Sissoko get injured. It's injury after injury. It's always difficult for a manager to go into the transfer market when other clubs know that they're struggling for players with injuries.
Yeah, naturally, because as much as you don't want to be a horrible club or horrible, you've got to think about your investments first. And you know, naturally, if Spurs are struggling in terms of injuries, then you're going to hike up the price a little bit more because the desperation that's attached to it now. Now, if they could have, Spurs probably could have lost anybody within their squad. Harry Kane would have probably been bottom of that list, because we've spoken about the need to increase that depth, especially in that front line for the longest while now. A few windows we're speaking about, and they haven't really filled that void since Llorente's left. So it's a difficult period of time for Spurs, but at the same time, they probably do need to move aggressively now, and that Piątek deal will look like the right move.
Do they need more than that, though, Michael, do you think?
I think they do, to be honest, Dave. I mean, you know, it's been a tough season for Spurs with injuries. Hugo Lloris has been a bit of a loss now, I think we have to say. Ben Davies suffered a serious injury against West Ham. Danny Rose has had injury niggles. Moussa Sissoko on Monday, he could be out for the season as well. Yeah, Ndombele. Jose Mourinho, his words, he's always injured. And that's Tottenham's record signing. Harry Kane, that is such a big blow. Eric Lamela, he's only just come back. Son's only just come back from suspension. So, yes, Spurs need a few in.
OK, let's just finish with a little bit of news reaching us here. Sky Sports News has confirmed that Celtic winger Lewis Morgan has been given permission to speak to Miami, that's Inter Miami, and complete a move to David Beckham's franchise in the MLS.
Not a bad move.
A fee has been agreed with Celtic for Morgan. He's still got 18 months left on his contract, and he has left Celtic's training camp in Dubai and is expected to fly to the US later today. So Inter Miami making moves. Remember, you can download the latest Transfer Talk podcast. It's available for you right now on iTunes and Spreaker, as well as the Sky Sports website. Good Morning Transfers returns on Monday at 9 a.m. Don't miss it. We are back, though, in a couple of hours for Transfer Talk. That's from midday. And Dharmesh Sheth and Kaveh Solokol return with the Transfer Show. That starts at 7 o'clock tonight. Next up, though, on Sky Sports News, it's Football Centre with Paul Robinson. There is some significant injury news regarding Harry Maguire. Stand by, that's next.